All right, everyone, let's talk about packaging for export. Specifically in this presentation, we will cover how packaging for export serves to protect goods from the hazards of shipping through multiple different levels, while also balancing this with cost. We'll also look at how packaging can make the transportation and handling of packages more efficient. And then we'll also look at how different packaging methods are used depending on the mode of transport. Specifically, we'll look at containerized shipping, since it is the most common type of transportation that is used for shipping goods. Then we will look at intelligent packaging, what it is and how it's used for several different types of items, including food and perishable items. And finally, we'll talk about antimicrobial active packaging and how it interacts actively with its environment and controls multiple factors like moisture, odor, flavor, and the gases that influence the packaged good. Now, first and foremost, it doesn't matter what type of packaging is used, it must meet several functions and objectives for it to be considered proper packaging. There are three different levels of packaging: primary, secondary, and tertiary. Primary packaging is known as consumer packaging. This is what the consumer actually gets in their hands. This is what the good is packaged in when it is sold to the consumer. Secondary packaging is when a bunch of primary packages are consolidated into one unit. Now, there's two different reasons that this is done. First is to help facilitate the handling of the goods, to help, lower the amount of labor that is required to load these so they're not all have to be loaded individually, and also to provide an extra layer of protection to these goods. Now, secondary packaging can be pallets or crates, corrugated paper boxes, or even plastic and shrink wrap that is put around the actual packaging. Tertiary packaging is the third level of packaging, and it is usually used for industrialized goods. These industrialized goods are usually large or individually shipped, so they don't have as much secondary packaging put on them, but they still need an added layer of extra protection. This is where tertiary packaging comes into play. Now, there is one function above all else that packaging must meet, and this is to protect from the hazards of shipping. Now, there's a lot of different types of damage that can incur on goods during the shipping process, and the two most common types are mechanical and moisture damage. Mechanical damage can occur anytime that an object is roughly handled, dropped, or has another object placed on top of it that's much heavier than it, and it's crushed or broken in some way. This is mechanical damage. Now, moisture damage is a huge hurdle for ocean shipping. Ocean shipping must take extra precautions when dealing with moisture damage, because moisture damage is one of those ones that can ruin an entire shipment. Like, it's not just going to break one box or crush one part of the shipment. This is the entire shipment can be destroyed due to moisture. Now, when you're talking about losing large shipments like that, it really starts to bring into perspective the cost, the risk that can be, the risk that shippers have with these goods being, broken or damaged in some form or fashion. So this is why that the added cost of packaging usually is not a concern for shippers. That added the cost of packaging must be balanced with the risk of losing the shipments. However, the cost of packaging is usually much lower than the cost of replacing an entire shipment. Next, packaging must facilitate the handling of goods. This means that it works with the technology and equipment that is used when loading and unloading these goods. This can be anything from attaching lifting eyes so it can easily work with the cranes at the ports, or having pallets underneath your boxes so that forklifts and pallet jacks can easily pick up the packages as one and move them. Now, this is a lot easier than moving and loading all the goods by hand or loading them all one at a time. And this really helps to lower the cost, the labor cost that is incurred with these goods. Now, proper labeling can also help facilitate the handling of goods. Not only can it help show the proper recipient and easily display where the package needs to go so that the package doesn't have to be tampered with or opened to see what's inside, to see what the goods are, to see where they need to go. But Labeling can also help prevent inappropriate handling methods. Now this can be like fragile signs that are put on boxes, or this side up arrows that are stuck on the side of boxes to help prevent them from being turned upside down or being roughly handled. And there's also a number of tamper-proof devices. A good example would be shock pads that can be placed on these packages. Shock pads have a little level that can break if a certain amount of force is exerted on the package, which can tip shippers off that inappropriate handling methods were used at some point during the shipping process. Now, the final objective of packaging is to fit within the customer service strategy of who you're shipping to. Now, this means that the package that you have to take into account your customers' operations as well as your own. You want to ship them containers and packages that are sustainable and preferably reusable, like boxes that can be reused and repackaged for those customers. And you also want these packages to be easy to get into. You want to be efficient to break down so that they don't have to spend a lot of time and labor opening the packages of the goods that you sent. Now we'll talk a little bit more about a specific method of shipping, which is container shipping. Container shipping is used in ocean cargo and is one of the most common forms of shipping when you're shipping goods. Now this is due to the unitization of goods and the efficiency that these large metal containers give to the loading and unloading process of goods. Now there's two different types of container configurations that are available to customers, which is full container loads and less than container loads. Full container loads charge the customer a flat rate, and basically these are good for shippers that are going to be shipping large quantities of goods that are plan on filling up an entire container so that they can cover the flat rate cost of that full container. The only downside to full container loads is that it relies a lot on shipper honesty, and they can actually have inappropriate packaging if they put too much weight into these containers and then claim them to be less. Less than container load shipping is where you're actually charged by the volume or weight of the objects that you are putting into the container. And generally, if you have a good that doesn't weigh very much but takes up a lot of space, you're going to be charged by the volume that it takes up. Or if it's a small, dense good or object that weighs a lot, you're going to be charged by the weight. Now, less than container load it provides a lot more flexibility than full container load because you can ship your shipment whenever you want to. You don't have to wait till you have enough goods to fill up an actual container. But there can be a few additional handling costs since the containers are not necessarily unloaded and loaded at your place of business. Now, there's two different types of cargo that are used for the containerized shipping, which is small cargo, small packages that can be mixed and stuffed into these containers, and then there's large cargo that's too large to actually fit within one of these metal containers. That's known as break bulk cargo. This is where the tertiary packaging is actually going to be seen a lot because it needs that added layer of protection thanks to the fact that it's not protected by this metal crate or this metal container. Now we will talk about intelligent packaging. Intelligent packaging has a lot of the same functions and purposes of regular packaging or passive packaging as it's known, but intelligent packaging differs a little bit. It's actually used a lot in the food industry. It's used for different perishable items that have really short shelf lives and ones that are very, very susceptible to outside stimuli. And basically the main purpose of intelligent packaging is to contain the product, maintain its quality, and inform the consumers of properties, because packaging that does not communicate with the customer is not known as intelligent packaging. So what actually is intelligent packaging? Well, intelligent packaging is packaging that is specifically engineered to enhance the primary functions of packaging that we've already discussed. Any of those functions, such as protection or facilitation of handling, intelligent packaging just takes this to the next level. It takes it to the next step because it is specifically engineered for the good that is within it. This is not like a generic type of packaging. This is a type of packaging that was designed by engineers and scientists for that good. Intelligent packaging is also intuitive, which means it reacts to the needs of the good that is within it. Since it's intuitive, if environmental conditions change, like For example, if the amount of oxygen in the shipping area changes drastically and the good is very prone to oxidation, this intuitive side of intelligent packaging would react to that and help to block out more oxygen so that the good doesn't actually oxidize and become damaged. Lastly, intelligent packaging, as I said earlier, communicates with the customer. It has to uniquely communicate with the customer, and it can do this through a variety number of technologies, which we'll discuss a little bit later on. Now, the actual functions and use of intelligent packaging, there's four different ways, four different functions that intelligent packaging brings. And those are ergonomics, informative, active, and responsive. Now, when you're looking at ergonomic type packaging, ergonomic packaging focuses on aiding in the performance of tasks with minimal effort while maximizing the efficiency. And all this means is that the packaging that enhances its containment aspect of the packaging and makes the packages a lot easier to transport, use, and discard. Now, for informative, active, and responsive packaging, these all focus on enhancing both protection and communication. Informative packaging specifically enhances the way that information about the food product is stored, disclosed, or transferred without actually interacting with the food. This form of packaging is found on almost all food products, and this is due to just the product information that's printed onto the labels. I mean, this can be anything from when they were harvested to how ripe they were when they were harvested. The different types of technology that intelligent packaging interacts with is certain printed labels like barcodes. It can also be interacted with RFID chips and different smart devices so that goods can actually be wirelessly monitored, scanned, and tracked. And this can actually help reduce a lot of costs. It can help take the hardware type packages and actually connect them to software systems. This is a huge advantage for shippers because most boxes and shipments have to be basically inspected and they have to be inspected one by one, and that just takes too much time. And with intelligent packaging, you can avoid a lot of this, especially with food products and perishable products. Time is always of the essence, and if you can save, hours on the shipping process, that's hours more that food can sit on shelves. Now, antimicrobial active packaging is actually a form of intelligent packaging, but it takes it a little bit further. It's a little more specific type of intelligent packaging. Now, antimicrobial active packaging, much like intelligent packaging, is dependent on the goods, but antimicrobial active packaging is specifically bioactive. It's going to be tailored to the actual good that it is protecting. And antimicrobial active packaging is specifically used for living or once living goods, such as food products, especially fresh fruits, produce, things like that. Now, the antimicrobial packaging itself can be natural or artificial, or manufactured, my bad. It can be natural or manufactured. Natural antimicrobial packaging can be anything like banana leaves. Banana leaves can be actively wrapped around fruits when they're shipped, and it helps control the amount of moisture that is allowed into the package. And it also can help prevent oxidation from occurring. Manufactured type antimicrobial packaging includes different films and semi-permeable membranes that can actually be put around fruits that control the amount of conditions and the amount of stimuli that are allowed to interact with that product, with that good. And basically these can be customized to offer a wide range of protection. Now for the actual functions of active antimicrobial active packaging. Like I mentioned, it works to actually change the conditions around the fruit. It actually controls the atmosphere that these goods are in. And just basically the atmospheric gas composition of the inner or outer surface of the packages controls the shelf life of these foods. antimicrobial active packaging actually takes the extra step to control this. Now, the ways it controls this is through antioxidants, enzymes, aromatic compounds, nutraceuticals, essential oils, and antimicrobial compounds that can all act as either absorbers or emitters. And all an absorber means that it actively, or is also known as active scavenging systems, means that it actively is looking for negative ions, negative particles that will impact or damage that fruit or that food product, and actively tries to absorb those, to try and take those away so that they, or neutralize them so that they can't harm or damage the fruit. Now, emitters, also known as active releasing systems, can actually release different oils, different types of enzymes, things that can actually be released to protect the fruit itself. And these are usually also released in response to different atmospheric conditions. And obviously, since there's multiple types of absorbers and emitters, they can control multiple different factors. All of these different factors are basically moisture, odor, flavor. I mean, it can even control the amount of oxygen, carbon dioxide, and ethylene that is absorbed or emitted by the fruit itself. And really, this is just going to help lengthen the shelf life and overall protect this very, very fragile good during its shipping process. Now, there are specific challenges and criteria that apply to antimicrobial active packaging, and that means that since these are custom-made, tailor-made for the goods, the release rates and stability of the actual packaging, the films themselves, must match this. If they actually do their job too well, they can damage the fruit. So this actually adds an extra challenge when you're using antimicrobial active packaging. The materials have several different properties to them that must be balanced, and these are barrier properties, which is the thickness of the actual barrier or film that is around the fruit. And this is going to basically affect the transfer rates of different atmospheric compounds in and out, because some fruits need actual fresh oxygen. These food products actually need fresh oxygen, so the barrier property will work to be thin enough to let enough moisture and air through to keep that product healthy, while limiting excess gases like carbon dioxide and things like that. The next one is transparency, so that you can actually see the food product that is within there, because there's a lot of visual signs that the active packaging is not working. You can tell when fruit's ripening quicker. You can tell when fruit is spoiled, and you want to be able to see if part of it has spoiled so that you can maybe still save the rest of the shipment and not lose an entire shipment due to the fact that you can't see it. Tensile strength is also important depending on what goods are actually being shipped, because some fruits like durians and stuff like that are much more rough. They have a very spiky exterior, and these types of fruits would require a lot higher tensile strength for the film that would be wrapped around them so they don't puncture it. Now, this concludes my presentation on packaging for export. Hopefully you learned something, and thank you for your time.